years to rededicate this old cabin. It's been a part of McKeller history for years and years. Here some of the Nesheims have traveled all the way from Vermont. Hey, 10 miles from Canada, just to be here for our little cabin in the park. Well, Florida, good. Good. Anyway, I'd like to say good afternoon to the Nesheims. My name is Rick Fredrickson, and welcome to the site of McKeller Park's log cabin. When skilled carpenter Knut Nesheim came up with the idea of building this hand-hewed cabin 76 years ago, there was a memorial to area Norwegian immigrants, such as himself, who had experienced hardship and isolation upon their arrival to this country. The man who built houses on nearly every street in Blanchardville had a section of town named after him known as Nesheimbille, which is behind you, all the way down the street, and many, many more houses in the Blanchardville area. We figure about 40. So he talked to a bunch of these Norwegian Americans into building this little cabin. And each one of the members of the Sons of Norway donated a log from their farm. So every log you see in this little log cabin is from a different farm. In order to preserve his heritage, and Nesheim, who brought his family to Blanchardville in the 1800s, had become affiliated with a national fraternal organization known as the Sons of Norway. In 1927, he convinced others in this area to start their own local organization, which became known as Elverum Lodge 338, a forerunner of the active Mount Horeb Sons of Norway Lodge 513, which we have two members of right here. And he's past president, and they're both very, very active in Sons of Norway. That's the original garb, the bunads and the garb that they wore at Sons of Norway. I thank you so much for coming. After the cabin was built by Nesheim, along with assistance from Strom, Engsted, and Olik Kamerud, which they're symbolic of Blanchardville, those names. Some of the Sons of Norway meetings were held right here in this little cabin. I don't know how they had 100 members, and I know they didn't all fit in.
They were skinny.
But they used oil lamps and lanterns for their meetings. The Blanchardville Garden Club planted over 60 bridal wreath bushes, among other perennials, to give the cabin a rustic look. And of course, they're gone now, but eventually we're going to have a few of them back. Behind you is the garden club's garden, which we brought back 2 years ago, and we're starting to revive it. And hopefully everything will go well in that. In time, with members no longer living, Nesheim died in 1944, and I heard somebody come up to me and say they were his great-great-great-grandson. Is that correct? Oh, beautiful. 3 generations back. And the local organization of Sons of Norway was disbanded. The cabin stood idle, although used for a brief time as McKeller Park's first bathhouse. Now, boys and girls in that little place could be wild and exciting, but the 50s were a wild and exciting time. In the 50s, area Boys and Girl Scouts took over the cabin and used it for their meeting places. That's why you see the beautiful rock fireplace in there. It was built by several members of the Boy Scouts back in 1959. And one of them I see is here today. That's Mr. Butch Watrud. Hold up your hand, Butch. You were very instrumental. Yeah, he's one of those little fellows in there playing the Stones. And Cliff Leon Jr. was the guiding hand. Her husband was the guiding hand, yes. And the stonemason was Michael Meyer. And they built all the natural stone fireplace, and it's still in pretty good working order. We're going to try and make it work even better. But by the late 1960s, the cabin stood idle once again, except as a storage unit for old discarded park equipment. The only interest in it was shown by vandals and mice, which it took a lot of cleaning up. Then in the late 1970s and early 1980s, there was talk by the village of demolition. I've been singing for an hour, Cab, and I have my tongue is thick. It's become an eyesore, but there were others who saw its significant historical value. In recent years, there was even some talk about moving it to another location. But after we found out how this cabin was built by Knut Nesheim with pins, that was not an option, because you couldn't take it apart without destroying it. Since then, we had a park chairman, Mr. Frank Underholzner, which is right here. His guiding hand, along with my strong back and little mind, we redid the cabin. And his wife, his partner, Barb, she helped stain everything and put things together, and let's see, made plans to refurbish it, and we did so. Others interested in its history were some members of the Mount Orp Sons of Norway, Log 513, and they donated money for the project to restore this cabin. Since then, shingles have been replaced, as has the entire cap of the roof. Insects had penetrated the roof and were eradicated, and the logs were waterproofed and stained. The north wall, where the fountain on the back of this cabin had a drinking fountain, of course, rotted out the logs, so they had to replace all those logs. They're not the originals. I'm sorry, but I just couldn't hand you any logs to fit. But all the labor and the chinking, which a friend of mine, Mel Lewis, and myself did, we re-chinked the entire cabin and stained it, and all the labor on this cabin has been donated pretty much, which shows you the spirit of Blanchardville. We wanted to keep this as a historical thing in our time, you know, to keep it in place. The interior walls have been painted and the electricity restored, the windows repaired, and the shutters and the screens have been made to fit. Inside these walls, one can see related photos and artifacts from the cabin and the park, donated by area people, the Historical Society, and the Nesheim Doherty family, which we thank very much. Why don't all you hold up your hands from the Nesheim Doherty family? Hey, that's a pretty good number. And they traveled all this way just for our little cabin. That's pretty neat. This afternoon, we are rededicating the McKeller Park Log Cabin to honor Knut Nesheim and the early settlers who have left this legacy to the village of Blanchardville. We welcome the descendants of Knut Nesheim, include some of his great-great-great-grandchildren. You want to kind of just tell where some of you are from? I know one told me they were from Vermont, from Florida, New York,
Tennessee,
the top of your town.
Tennessee.
We were just down there a couple of months ago. Wonderful state. But anyway, they've traveled all this way for this little cabin in the park, and I think that's pretty neat. So we're going to have a little saber salute by Company D of 1st Wisconsin Cavalry. So gentlemen, give your salute. Thank you, gentlemen. 1st Wisconsin Cavalry Company D. Very intricate part of the Civil War. Now, visitors to the park are certainly welcome to step inside and view what we have put together. It's a work in progress. We hope for many, many years to come that we'll keep building it up and getting more and more artifacts from Knut's generation, who was a very significant person in our village. So thank you, and enjoy the rest of the afternoon.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.